people do confuse between human rights and robots' rights.
Yeah, no, so this is an important question, and it has to do with the fact that rights, on the one hand, is something valuable. It's valuable property. We guard rights, and we, value them very highly. On the other hand, we don't really have a good working definition of rights. Rights is a very amorphous, ambiguous term. Like the word robot, it has a lot of diversity with regards to how rights is mobilized and how it's defined. So one of the things I often tell people is that the set of human rights will not be equivalent to the set of any possible robot right. The same way that the set of human rights would never be the same as the rights that we would accord an animal. We might give an animal a writ of habeas corpus, but we're not going to give it the vote, right? The same thing goes for robots. So we got to keep distinct that these sets of rights are specific to different groupings or different sets of entities. The other thing I like to do in my work and when I talk about this is to make sure that we're being a little more specific about how we define the term rights. And I think we can get some traction on this by looking at the work of Wesley Holfeld, who was a jurist in the United States in the 1920s. And he noticed already back then that when people use the word rights, even really informed people like judges and lawyers who are arguing human rights cases, they often use the word in contradictory ways. They would use it one way in one sentence and immediately in the next sentence use it in a different way. And so to solve this problem, he decomposed rights into what he calls the four incidents: powers, claims, privileges, and immunities. And he said anything that's a right will either be one of those or a combination of those. And that if we use that framework, we can come up with a way of describing rights that are a little more specific for individual entities. So to go back to this idea that I mentioned earlier, the proposal by Ellen and Jeremy Bensusan about the right to privacy for the domestic social robot, you can talk about that as being a particular claim that is able to be made by, or a power that is invested in this particular entity, this robot. But that one claim, that one power, is just that. It's one thing. It's that one item. You're not talking about giving it the vote. You're not talking about allowing it to have, any other sets of rights that we might accord other entities. And so that if we can get more specific about what we're talking about when we say rights, I think a lot of the fear, a lot of the confusion, and a lot of the sort of, immediate reactionary responses can be really taken care of very quickly, because you realize that when you're talking about the right of a particular robot to privacy, you're not talking about all the human rights that we value.